Hi there, and welcome to my early game guide for Clanfolk. I'm Icon, and this video is filled with tips and tricks that are aimed to help you through the early stages of the game and survive your first winter well. So basically, if you already know how the game works and you don't need any beginner's help, I made a video about that as well. This video is filled with strategies and ways and things to work around fire, to prepare well for winter, how to make supplies last longer, how to work out that the rain doesn't bother your people too much, all the things. If you are looking for something in particular, the description box contains timestamps for you to browse through. Also, check out the links down there. There's a freshly updated Patreon that I do recommend to check out. So, let's start first. This here is a randomly rolled place. I have assigned a couple of jobs for stone, branch, and berry gathering. The very, very basics. And that's the first thing that I want to talk about as the first really important thing. Try to do your unlocking as quick as possible. Try to gather everything as quick as possible that you can and apply those early inventions as quick as possible. I mean, the stockpiles, they aren't interesting at all. They don't help you really much. What's interesting here is that you get on over to the work zone and you place it down ASAP. Also, you can tell your people that they ought to do these things immediately by clicking in here. Use that if you have something really, really urgent, like this thing here. So, the unlocks that I'm talking about, what I mean with that is force your people through the very, very early stages of the idea tree as quick as possible, because the things that you are unlocking are extremely valuable. And here we have our first thing, the stone sickle. Let's immediately produce one. And these improvements will unlock more productivity, more options, and most importantly, you will be way faster done with a lot of things, and you'll get a lot of things. For example, here you can only clear grass with the proper tool. A lot of jobs in this game are bound to the proper tool. So the gist of it, what I'm trying to say here is, whenever you get a new tool, to a certain point of the game, you're well advised with just do whatever you unlock immediately, because right now we are gaining so much more so many more new things out of each new technology that will make our life easier, that you can't rush it too much. Also, as a side note here, reeds are really, really awesome in the early game, because reeds contain instant straw, whereas the meadow that you see here has to be is producing hay, which has to be processed into straw. Also, to speed things up, make sure that you always have a nice amount of tools available. As you see here, we are now double as effective as before. Next, unlock the Thresher. It's an insanely important one, and I'm going to head on over with the Thresher right on next to the next topic, because we're done with hasty unlocks. Just keep in mind, the early game tech pushed through them as quick as possible. Don't ponder on these low-quality options and gather the early game resources in large amounts, because you unlock more and more things. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about while I'm placing down a couple of jobs is, where can you find a good spot for your people to live at? It's pretty simple early on. Early on, you're looking for a place where you have a mountain in the vicinity, because you will want to store your mountain your food in the mountain. I'm going to explain that in the freezer topic in more detail. And you also want to be as close as possible at the same time to water, because water is a absolutely vital supply in this game. And it's up to you to find a sweet spot between water, mountain, and grasslands, because grasslands are the third thing that is extremely important in the early game, because believe me when I say hay and straw is pretty much everything in the early game. You really, really need that. Here in this particular scenario, I see that this is a really, really good spot to go for, so we're placing down our Thresher here. I already tried to make some decisions as quick as possible, because it's just extremely useful when you already know where you're going to go towards to. The stockpile zones here, I'm just using them as a as an intermediate solution. As a quick statement, the specialized storage things, storage objects here, everything in this tab is always miles better than a raw storage zone. A raw storage zone is always just a quick fix. So your early game starting spot, I repeat once more as a summary, try to be not too far away from the water, try to be close enough to a mountain to dig a cave into, because that's going to come in super handy later, and find a spot where people are not going to travel too far towards grasslands, and of course berry bushes. I left these out a bit, but in the early game berry bushes are also a lot of your food stockpiles. Which brings me to the next topic, food stockpiles. Gather every bit of food as quick as possible, because you will need every bit in the winter that you can get. Food gathering is a extremely important thing as soon as possible in this game, and you are well advised to do that as much as possible, because food is something that, how should I put it? It's clearly one of the most important resources in the very early stages of the game, and you will be busy with food a lot of the early game. Therefore, gather as much of that stuff as possible because there's two things why this is important. First off, of course, the obvious reason you need that stuff to eat it, duh. But the other thing is, many foodstuffs that you are collecting in larger amounts unlock methods to process them and methods to store them more efficiently. Right now, for example, we're storing our foodstuff on the ground. Bad, super bad, because that's making it go bad even quicker. Put up a serving basket as quick as possible and things like these to get your food off the ground. This makes it last a lot longer, and it's really important to start with that as quick as possible, because I can't stress out enough how important it is to make your food last as long as possible, because you cannot have too much food in this game. You're either going to use it for your people yourself, or you are going to use it for other people, guests for example, or you are going to sell it. So in any case, you are going to profit from food insofar that there's no such thing in Clanfolk as too much food. In the worst case, it'll rot somewhere and give you the feeling that, man, I have too much food. But if it rots, you certainly should store it better. There are methods to avoid rotting pretty much in the first place. I want to talk about a couple of things here, because we're going to get there in only after a while. It's really important that you gather as many mushrooms as possible once you get them, because mushrooms are basically the best food to to preserve that you can get your hands on early on. That's because once you have enough mushrooms, you can dry them, and once you are able to dry mushrooms, you have reached the point where you have basically everlasting food that never goes bad. You just have to store them all right, and dried mushrooms last until they get eaten. That is absolutely valuable, and you should definitely hang on to that. I just want to end this with a word about fishing. When you check out how many eel traps you can put up, mouse over your lake and you see a fishing number here, 100%. You can set up your eel trap in a way that you catch twice per day, and then you wait until tomorrow, and then you repeat that daily. And then, if you want to, you can slap on in another job and watch if this number declines over the course of the time. If it does decline over the course of the time, you have to catch less fish. If it stays stable, you are at a sweet spot where you can just keep it going like that. Keep in mind though, fishing is not a thing that lasts in the winter, so fishing is really great to use during the pleasant times, and you're going to use the preserved food during the winter, because you're not going to be able to catch fish in the winter. So we unlock tool after tool, and as you see here, this is how we unlock more things. So I want to talk about the next thing now, and that's umbrellas. Don't know, I'm going to explain. A couple of workplaces, the Thresher for example, are not going to work if they are wet. So you can always see that here. So here. So you have that icon, rain stops. Everything that is bothered by rain has that little icon. And you can help yourself with that by just putting up a wall right next to the workspace. And then you go on over to the roofing, and then you place roofs over this thing. Boom, done. Keep in mind, though, that there is a maximum range for your roofs. As you see here, once they turn red, they need another piece of wall. You can easily put up a roof over these things to make them last longer, but that's not where it ends. You can also put up a roof above this like that, and then you can... Whoopsie. No, that's not what I wanted to do. And then you can move the serving basket, by the way, the hotkey is C to move things, also below that roof. This way, you can store things waterproof before you are able to build larger houses, and without taking too much effort. Because the cool thing here is, it really does not take your folk too long to put up something like that, and this way you have rainproof working spaces. Just keep in mind that if you want to do that for a smithy or the like, you will need to put up some fireproof pillar in the middle, otherwise the whole thing will catch fire. But here's a nice thing, unless there's no fire present, so the fire doesn't come from outside, you can slap down a stone pillar and put up a straw roof, and don't worry about that fire-wise, because the sparks will never light up the roof, but they will light up pillars and the like. So that's really, really important to know. So now we are at the point where we are soon able to unlock our first pickaxe. Sadly, right now we are not able to mine into the mountain. So then we're going to talk about another thing until my clanfolk are done with that part. I want to talk about a general thing about how to build buildings here, and also how to set up your economy. And my motto for this game so far was less is more. There is down here a task list, which lists up all the stuff that you are that you have put up to your clanfolk to do. If you convolute this with way too many tasks, your clanfolk will have a lot of trouble to keep up with all the tasks that you have given them. And therefore, it's really worth mentioning that if you ever have the feeling that nothing gets done, even though you have set up your priorities here all right, check out if you just haven't put up way too many tasks into your task list. And believe me when I say it happens really quickly. Happens to me a lot too. So we have now unlocked the axe. Let's unlock the pick. Let's build one. So and to summarize that even more, or to keep with the less is more motto, when you're building your first buildings, try to keep it as small as possible, because you really don't want to build a too large building right from the get-go. Why is that so, you might ask yourself? Because buildings in this game need tremendous amounts of resource and time, and it's one of the most common things that ruined my early game runs, at least, that I went way too bonkers with a way too large house, and then didn't get it done until the middle of the fall, and until then I would have been better off with a huge stockpile of things. So here goes how to build a nice house early on. You just focus on the important things, and that's the sleep zones, so you just slap down a sleep zone for everybody. So you need 7 sleep zones if you have the standard beginning, 2, 4, 6, and 7. And then you plan on in a little bit of room around that. And now we pick up our first wall that we can put up. You can use hay wall. You can wait until you have unlocked a less flammable wall. It's really up to you. Once you have access to clay, you will soon unlock the dog wall, which is the first low flammability wall. It's up to you. I'll use here a hay wall, which I personally wouldn't recommend as a thing. That's why I'm talking so much about it, but for the sake of the explanation. So here I'm really just putting down a minimum amount of wall around this thing here. As you see here, I'm leaving up a little bit of extra room because I don't want to be too narrow and not able to expand that a little bit further. And here, that's all the house that I'll build in the early game. As soon as this is done, I will think about further options in terms of housing, yes. But here I have enough room to let all my people sleep and put down a fireplace, put down a couple of resources, and keep my animals in. That's really, really important that you keep your animals or you plan your animals inside your winter abode. And that's because animals freeze to death if you don't give them any heating, and also they provide body warmth, which makes you life in the winter easier. So all in all, the gist of it is build a small winter shelter first, a house which is large enough for all your people to sleep in, all your animals to sleep in, large enough for a stone fireplace. That's it. Start with that. From there on, you can expand as much as you want until winter comes, but you will be so sad if you don't have this thing down as quick as possible. So, we have finally unlocked the mining, so we can now talk about the freezer. So, the freezer is a quite simple thing. You get on over to the Mine Mountain tab, and then you start to carve out a bit of a room inside the mountain. That's pretty much the gist of it. You are going to slam down a door in there, and then you're going to use the freezing powers of the mountain for your settlement. The thing here is, at the first time, this is not so important, because in the summertime, you won't have much use for that. It's only a cooler room than the other rooms. Why is that so? Everything below the mountain roof is cooler than the rest. So you will put that to good use later on. Because after your first winter, if you store enough frozen water in this thing, you just have to put down jug pallets for this purpose, this room will stay at -degrees all the way through summer. All you have to do is store enough water inside. The sweet thing about that is, the water is able to freeze even more water. So if you want to expand your freezer, even in the summer, all you have to do is slap down a new water pallet and then carve out a little bit more mountain. It's really important, though, that you keep an eye on the fact that you have to have enough frozen water inside there as a cooling element, so to say. And after that, you can slap in all the storage furniture thingies you want into your mountain freezer, and you'll be able to store huge amounts of food for an indefinite amount of time. This is not that this will not bring you too much benefit in the first year, because you have no access to frozen water. You need the frozen water from the last winter to kickstart the freezing process, but it is still worth it insofar that many foodstuffs have the quality of going bad because it's too warm for them or something like that. Many things want to be stored cold. This is as good as it gets during the summertime. Alright, and that's pretty much all you need to know about a freezer. It is that simple. Put in a door, put in frozen water, store food inside. Done. If you don't want to have a dark room inside here, you can also slap down one of it as a wall here and put in a window there, and that's that. It'll still work. What counts is that the room is below a mountain roof. It's not about being enclosed by mountain walls. Alright, so the next thing that I want to talk about are tech breakpoints. Tech breakpoints, with that I mean going down the idea list and getting down with the important things. I want to talk about the important things that I personally think you should always strive for as quick as possible. The whole pathway that leads you down to metal crafting is, in my humble opinion, something that's totally worth to streamline directly towards it. Build everything necessary. Charcoal kiln, bloomery, smithy. And after that, the workbench. Once you have these things down, you have access to iron tools, iron furniture, and pretty much all the really important things that you need. Among these, the meat smoker, which is also available once you have iron. And once you have the access to nails, basically, nails are the big tech breakpoint in my humble opinion. Once you have access to that, your people are mostly done with the really important things that you should get done until the first winter. Having a well in the first winter is nice, but not really necessary because you won't need it that much. And once you are past these tech breakpoints, you are ready to prepare yourself for winter. It's of course up to you how you play it. I mean, by all means, these are just suggestions and experiences that I've made. But I must say, once you hit the point where you're able to make iron tools, a lot of the work gets faster done because iron tools are just way more efficient, and a lot of the work that you're doing is going to be a lot more effective, and basically all your furniture gets better. You have larger storage tools and all the things, so you will make much more out of the small room you have, basically. That's that. So the next chapter that I want to talk about is winter preparations, and we're going to hop on over to another save file for that, where we're in the middle of winter. And first off, to prepare yourself well for winter, it is really, really important that, whoopsie, that was the wrong one, that you are going to go for for as many foodstuffs as possible. Oh, sorry, I'm getting not the right save file here, but that's okay. Foodstuffs. It's really, really important that you have the foodstuffs that you need. Grab as much stuff as possible. Grab berries, grab mushrooms, especially mushrooms. Bring up as many mushroom drying racks as possible. Get yourself as much clothing as possible. Kill rabbits. Make yourself sack clothing. You can always check out the clothing of your people when you mouse over the warmth tab. Here's where you see what your people are wearing altogether. Fur's better than cloth, but the most important thing is to know that clothing makes your people work more effective in winter. The winter shelter is going to make your people not freeze to death during the night and during the daytime. Clothing is really important to make your people still be able to work in the winter time, because if their clothing sucks, they'll lose a lot of warmth while they're outside for a couple of minutes, and then they have to go inside back again, recover warmth, and go outside again. Basically, the better the clothing, the longer they last. And the next thing that I want to talk about is that there is a real neat little trick that you can use in the winter time. So you have a fireplace here in your winter abode, and you can use the space around there, and you just place down a storage pallet for water. Where is it? Always get a little bit up here, the jug pallet, right next there. What will happen due to that is the water will stay unfrozen, which is stored there. You don't have to go for this, usually for this recipe to unfreeze water. People will just put it down to the right next to the warm spot, which will do the trick for you. Pretty cool thing, helps you out a lot. But apart from that, there's one really, really important thing in terms of winter preparations to say. If you see your days of food down there, you have to multiply it by 60% at least. Why is that so? Because your people will grow hungrier in the winter. If you check on out the hunger rating of your people there, or food, the base change is minus 3 per sec. But if it's starting to be cold, this can double. Freezing temperatures make another -3 per second. That means you are going. Oh, whoops! I had a miscalculation there. Or no, this is a kid. Kids only use 3. Yeah, that's why 60%. A adult eats 5 per sec. So freezing adds another 3 per sec, and that's where this number will lead you wrong. For a good survival of the winter, just for your clan folk, 16 to 18 days. If you want to survive the winter with guests and the like, way beyond the 20. For a safe winter survival, just aim around 20 days of food and you're good to go. This'll bite your back otherwise, because there's no warning that your people will require more food when it's cold. And the last thing that I want to lose about winter is that during winter, you will lose your grandparents if you have that start. They are literally coded to die during the first winter out of old age, at the latest point in the very early of the next spring. That means take that into account, that you will lose workforce during the winter. This can also bite your back if you rely too much on gramps and grandma. So know that. This is a thing that'll always happen in your dynasty. You also can check that out on the tree here. There is this meter where you can see the aging. Whenever that meter is full, they go on over to the next stage of their age, and senior people, you know, the last stage of the age. So that's all that I wanted to lose about winter preparation. So a couple of things now in the last chapter about the future. So if you want to know how to get more clans people into your place, it's quite simple. You need a double bed and you need a married couple, and then they'll have to have a good mood, and then they'll get their thing on. To get new people into your clan that are not already in the clan, you're going to need the job board. The job board brings you workers, and if you manage to make these workers really happy, you get to hire them to your place. Easiest trick to make them happy: just don't let them work. Don't give them any jobs except for chilling out and providing them a nice home, and they'll have that meter full in no time. You'll also you'll just have to click them then, and you'll have a option over here to invite them to your to the home of your people. So that's that. And beyond that, when you are past the first winter, well, it's up to you what you want to do there. You can build up a large guest house, and lots of things are possible. Just want to mention that all these traders, the more you trade with them, the more different things they'll offer for you to trade with. You can go for livestock. There's a lot of cool things there too. It's all that I want to say in that regard. Guests, by the way, only take them in the first early game when you really are sure that you're going to muster them. It is by no means impossible, but you should know what you're doing. Alright, I hope you found that video helpful. If you have any other cool tips and tricks for the early game period, I'd be down to hear them. Drop them in the comment section below. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing to the channel. There's lots of content waiting on for you there. Also, feel free to check out the description box. There is a donation link if you are not interested in stuff like Patreon. Still can recommend to check it out. And beyond that, there is also links to my social media if you want to get informed about new stuff on Twitter or Discord or the like. Go check them out. I'd love to get in touch. So have a nice day, and bye bye.